Hi everyone, it's Andy from Hobby Headquarters. Well, I've got something very exciting to share with you guys today. Today we will be building the P-38 Lightning from Tamiya in 1/40A scale. Actually, I've already built it and here it is. A spectacular kit. The fit and finish is incredible on this kit, and as you watch the video and you see how things just kind of fall together, you'll be amazed on this kit. Now, you guys, if you've been watching the channel, know that we were able to get a white box early edition, and these represent what they call kind of like prototypes on it. They might do a little tweaking here and there because the kit is not due out until November, but I actually don't know what else they could change on this. The kit just fits together so perfectly and everything's spectacular on it. You'll be amazed. You know, in the box, the beginning of my video, we shake the box, pour glue in there, shake it up, and it's done. That was always kind of like a reference to Tamiya. Well, that's exactly what this is right here. This thing fits together that well. So, very excited to share it with you guys today. So, let's get started. Okay, let's start off now. The beginning stages of the cockpit, there actually aren't that many parts that we have to assemble. There were three parts in this little area here of the instrument panel that I've glued together, and that is all because they're all getting painted black, which I've gone ahead and done. And then we can go ahead and attach the decal for the instrument panel. We're going to leave the side panels off because we need to paint them and do some detailing on them, and there's just a couple of these other little accessory pieces that we're going to put on as we start doing the painting. So I'm going to go ahead and get the decal on this first, and then we're going to put the few pieces together in here, paint all of these interior green, and then we can start the assembly process. Okay, we're going to start off by putting a generous amount of the Mark Fit Strong onto this area because we want this decal to conform to all the little areas of the instrument panel. And once the decals are in the proper position, we are going to put probably 2 or 3 more coats of Mark Fit on here to really soften up the decal and get it to conform completely. Okay, with the detail painting all done, we've sprayed a coat of lacquer clear coat over all these areas. Now we're applying Tamiya's black panel liner to all the areas we want to create some distress. And after this sets up a little bit, we're going to take some cotton swabs and wipe off any of the excess. Now I've painted the interior green, and now I'm taking a little Japanese navy gray and just lightly dry brushing over all of the surfaces, and that's going to make all of the detail pop back out. And you can kind of see it start to form just on this piece here. Okay, we've let all the parts dry, and as you can see, we've got some nice detail sticking out on everything. Unfortunately, most of this is not going to really get seen very well because the cockpit is so small, but some of these little areas we will get to see from the side, so I think it'll add a nice little amount of detail. Now that this is all dry, we can go ahead and put all these pieces together. It doesn't call for the seat or some of the other parts until the very end, so we're just building just the base part of the cockpit right now. And now we can attach the cockpit tub inside the main part of the fuselage. Okay, now we're attaching the bracing to the center support. Okay, now we're ready to start assembling a bunch of these parts that we've put together, the sub-assemblies. As you saw a little while ago, we just assembled the entire internal support, and this portion here is the front wheel well for the front landing gear, and we've painted the entire piece silver. And on the other side, we've painted the interior green, and that is because that little bulge will stick through the bottom of the cockpit here. So with that being said, we can go ahead, and I'm going to glue all this off camera. I'm just going to kind of show you how it clicks together and how the fit is. So this portion will get glued into place right here, followed up by the top portion of the fuselage and wing section. You can see it all just kind of clicks together. And once we get that on, there are a couple panels, and they kind of just fit right into place as easy as you see it. And those will lock in the place here with a little bit of glue. And finally, we will put on the portion that has the machine guns, the nose cone here. So it's just that easy to get to this portion of it here. Everything is fitting really well, very tight fit in fact. So I'm going to go ahead and get all these pieces glued together right now. I started on the assembly and I left out one little part I need to tell you guys. We need to put the weight in the very front here too. So we're going to super glue that into place before we put the top on there. That gives it a little bit of extra weight to keep the tricycle landing gear from falling over. And don't forget, there's also going to be one in each one of the engine housings as well. Okay, we let the wings dry nicely. And now there's a couple of steps we need to take. I've just glued on the leading edge of the wings on both sides here. That just fit right easily into place. They also call out that we need to attach the nose with the 5 guns on it. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this off for right now. I think it's going to be easier to paint the machine guns, paint this separately, put them together, and then glue it on once we have all the rest of the paint job on here, especially with all the masking stuff we need to do. With that being said, we can flip the plane over and we can go ahead and attach the lower portion of the wings, and the fit is phenomenal on that. Including this brace actually has little pins on it too, so it really locks it into place nicely and makes it so you really can't mess up on it. One other thing I should point out too that I didn't say anything earlier was there are actually 9 holes you need to drill into the bottom of the fuselage here, and you need to do that obviously before you glue it together. So I had done that already and they're already in place there. So I'm going to go ahead and glue both of these portions of the wings on. After we get that done, there are 2 other pieces that glue on the outside here, the wing tips, and we're going to go ahead and put those on right after we get all this glued together. Okay guys, it may look like we've jumped quite a bit ahead here, but actually we haven't. I like to do, anytime we have multiple parts that are built the same way, I like to build one first off camera to see if there's anything I need to explain to you guys, anything that you might be on the lookout for, and then build the second one for you. Now I went ahead and built the entire boom here and glued that all together, started doing most of the sanding on the seam down the middle, and I kind of clicked it into place here, and as you can see, it's in place here. This is not glued on. The tolerances and the fit are so incredibly well. This thing fit into place here and is almost completely locked in. Now you can see that we can kind of separate it a little bit here, but incredible fit. Another little thing too is I cut this off. I wanted just to see how this slides on here, and see if we can get this on here to show you. Once again, super tight fit, and it stays into place all by itself, and then you can even put the rest of the tail on here. But great, incredible tolerances. The only thing that I want to point out to you guys that you want to not follow the instructions on, and that is by putting on the superchargers. I built up the supercharger and it lays into place right here, and you can see it will fit in here even after you do all the assembly. You just need to go in here with a pair of tweezers and pry up the end, and then it'll click right into place there. So we're going to leave that separate and paint it because it's a completely different color. And then there's one of the little cross brace in here that'll be body color that I've got put aside. We will put those on later on. So it's going to be pretty easy, and I think it's going to make painting a lot easier on this bird. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this back out. We'll paint those separately later, and now I'll show you how the entire other boom goes together. Okay, now we're going to show you how the other side, the other boom, goes together. There are a few little pieces that I've attached already, and just in the interest of time, but this is how quick and easy, once you get those couple of little pieces on there, that get glued into place there. Okay, we're going to let the glue dry on this. There are a couple other braces inside that I've attached. Kind of difficult to do on camera because they're really fine and fiddly, but they're very nice detail. So while that sets up and dries, we have the housing here for the superchargers, which will basically just lock into place just like that. We're going to leave the superchargers out like I told you earlier. We can glue those into place, and then when the booms come on, you can just lock them in, and that's how they lock into place, and I had it earlier. So we're going to let this dry a little bit more, and then we'll be able to put both sides of the boom together. Okay, everything is dried, and we've painted the inside here an aluminum color. Now it's just a matter of following Tamiya's instructions. Actually, like this right here, there are little pins that hold it inside. Lock that side in, and the other side will lock right into place just like that. So we'll go ahead and glue this up, and then we'll add the rest of the accessory pieces. Okay, now that all the parts are dry, kind of show you how this goes together. You first need to install the housing for the superchargers. Just get locked in just like that. And of course we're going to glue all this in a bit. And then it's just a matter of coming at it, locking that part in, clicking this part forward. And you can see it all kind of just stays together. And get that one locked in. Followed by the front, and then we can just slide this into place. It's got a definite groove. And you can see we've got the base of our airplane ready to go. Okay guys, as you can see, we've got all of this stuff glued together now. So although I had it just fitted into place, we've got it all nice and sturdy, glued together, really strong, and it's really amazing to feel it with all the extra weight that they put up front here. So you really got to be careful because of these little tiny parts on the bottom. You don't want to put it down like this because the amount of weight will definitely, you'll end up bending or breaking some of these parts. So that's why we were keeping it in the flipped upside down position while we're building this. Now I've started to assemble a bunch of little tiny sub-assemblies. You can see we put the little hard points on here for the drop tanks, and they give you two types. I started to build these up, and then I realized I'm probably just going to go ahead and put the little ones on. I think they're going to look better on there, be able to see a little bit more of the bottom of the airplane. And we've glued together just a couple little parts that make up the landing gear struts. We've glued those together and painted them silver, just like we did on the inside of the wheel wells. Now, I've just got done gluing these together. And these are the landing gear bays, or doors, excuse me, landing bay doors. And the way it's designed too is they keep the number still in place on here. This is going to get hidden up inside the fuselage, and really nice because all four of them look very, very similar, and I think it'd be really difficult trying to figure out which one is which. So with that being said, we've got all the little sub-assemblies done, including the ladder, which we'll put in there. But I don't want to put any of those on right now because we don't want to end up breaking anything. But what I wanted to do was kind of show you how these parts fit in here. And you can see this little tab is going to slide right inside here. And it kind of just pops into place. We're going to paint these. And look at how that just fits in there so perfectly. The little gear door just slides right in, covers up all the opening. And you've got a perfect way of putting on the gear doors, and that's just incredible. I think the way they've done that. Very happy with that. So before we do this though, we're going to go ahead and paint the insides the silver color that it calls out. Also, we're going to leave the drop tanks off probably for right now too, because we want to do some painting separately on those. There's two different forms. They have the one where they're painted all of the gray bottom, but they also have one that's painted with a olive drab top, which I'm not quite sure. I might do it, might not. Not sure how it's going to look on it. So we're going to go ahead and get the doors all painted up, including the front door. The front door does the exact same thing the way it fits on here. It kind of just locks into place with all this stuff, and just incredible fit. So I'm going to get those painted, and we'll come back and we'll show you how they look once we put them all on. Okay, if you guys have watched any of my videos in the past, you know I like to dry fit everything first together, especially when filming, because it's going to discover any types of problems that we might have before we actually put it on camera. And what I've done here is all the parts that I was talking about, we have literally just dry fitted into place. Everything just slid in there, and it's such a tight fit, it actually stays in there without glue. In fact, we can show you, because we can, like the front wheels, take the front wheels off, the landing gear will all come off, all of those pieces, all of this stuff is just fitted in there, as you can see. I did go ahead and glue the drop tanks into place, and that was strictly because I decided I'm going to paint them all bottom color. And the other benefit is once we pop the other landing gear out and the doors, I can put the vehicle down, or put the plane down like this, and that protects all those little delicate parts that are underneath there. So a win-win, basically, we'll call it. And as for the canopy, that is just literally sitting in place right here. I wanted to kind of see how that was going to fit, and it fits really well. I've got a few other little parts here that we are just painting the interior green, and then we're going to go back and paint the detail on and then fit those into place. So I think basically, other than assembling the props, we can pretty much go ahead and start painting. So I'll assemble the props. I'll show you those just before we start painting the airplane. I've done a little work on the cockpit now. We've attached the seat. We did a little slight weathering and chipping on it just to give it a little bit of wear and tear. I'm not one to do a lot of wear and tear. Looking at a lot of pictures, they weren't that badly beat up. And we've also attached the radios and some of the other bracing inside there. Now I'm in the process of putting together the props, and what I wanted to show you is one of them. Because of the way Tamiya has designed this, and the connection points are on the back of the piece, you can actually go ahead and paint all of these right on the sprue, cut them off, paint the props separately, and put it all together just like this, and have the prop all ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. When I left this one undone just so I could show you guys how it is, but it's very, very simple. There's little pegs inside each one of them, and they go right together. Okay, now we are cutting out very carefully the masts that are going to go on the canopy. I was mistaken earlier when I thought that they were actually already cut out for us, and this might just because this is a pre-production model. Won't won't say for sure whether or not this is going to be this way, but the one that I have right here requires that I cut out each one of these little pieces right here. And actually, I got to trim that a little bit better. But you can see there's quite a few little pieces of tape that are going to go on this here. We are going to do the open canopy, which this one has it so it's the B version, so the top flops open on it. So a little bit different. So I'm going to spend the next couple hours getting all the canopy masked, and then we'll come back and start doing some painting. The canopy is now all masked. One thing I did do is I am going to use the open canopy, which we have all masked off over here. We're going to paint that separately in a little while. To keep this masked off right here, to keep paint from out of there, we've taken the closed canopy and just temporarily affixed it inside there so we don't get any paint overspray. And rather than having to pack it with paper towels or cotton, anything, this will seal it off nicely and prevent any paint from getting in there. We can just knock it off once we're done. I was painting up the NATO black on the wheels, and I had a little extra paint in the brush. Decided to put a few little lines on some of the panels to highlight it. We're going to be using United States Army Air Force World War II olive drab, and we're going to go ahead and first paint the cockpit area with the interior green color, and that will give the inside panels of the window frames the interior green color, and then we'll spray over it the olive drab over the entire top of the model. And then once we're done with that, we're going to flip it over and we have neutral gray for the bottom part of the model, and we'll get that done right now. This is what the airplane looks like with 5 very, very light coats of the U.S. Army Air Force olive drab, and we've let it build up. You might notice there's a little bit of a gloss to it right now, and that is because I like to spray a little bit of gloss on the airplane, and that'll make the separation lines look a little bit more apparent. And then we can go back in and feather some of that in, which I've already done. There was a little bit area on the tail that was a little bit too much of a contrasting color, so we faded that back in, and a little bit in some of these areas here. You'll also notice I've attached the nose and taken and feathered the paint in to make it match the camouflage line all the way down the line. We've also removed all of the bottom pieces, and because we got a little bit of overspray on them, and I never glued them in to begin with, we went and repainted all of those. We can weather up and paint those separately and just shove them back in, and that's true of the landing gear now too. So that was good while we needed it to elevate everything and make sure everything fit right, but now with the painting we can remove all that stuff, paint it separately, and then apply it into place later on. So what I'm going to do now is we are going to put one good gloss coat over the entire model, and I'm pretty happy with the way the paint looks like this, and we'll go ahead and start doing decals. Now, as for the decals, there are a lot of little tiny ones on here, and I won't be showing obviously all of the decal work in process because it takes very, very long time, and it's kind of difficult doing some of the smaller decals, especially with the camera in the way. So it's just a matter of following the diagram, going down the line, and getting all the decals in the right spot. Matching up the instructions on there too to verify how everything is supposed to fit. And for example, this little break right here, we're going to line up with the pit of the star there, and then line these two lines up with the actual panel according to the instructions, and that should give us a nice straight decal. So I am going to mess around for the next couple of hours with decals, and then we'll come back, show you what they look like. We're going to clear coat them all in, and then we can move on to weathering. Okay, now that we have all the paint on there dried and the decal sealed in, we're going to go ahead and we're just going to put some small little amounts of chips. This is a South Pacific P-38, so there would have been landing on coral runways, and I'm not going to beat it up terribly, but we do want to make it look like it has seen some action. And we'll also put some back here where the pilot would walk. There's a step ladder in the back there that he could flip down and then walk up around the side here. Okay, now we're applying some streaking grime, starting off with the fuel tanks, and we'll let that kind of streak down there. Now we are taking some thinner, and we want to actually make it streak now, rather than being just big giant blobs of color. And one of the last things we want to put on are the mirror decals that go on the inside of the cowls of the engines here, and that is so the pilot can see if the landing gear is actually down. So there's going to be a mirror on each one of those sides, but we don't want to put those on with the other decals because when we coat over them, we don't want to dull those down. We want them to be shiny, just like they are right here. And here is our completed model. And you guys know I've been building a lot of model kits, and I've been modeling for a very, very long time. And I can say easily that this is probably the best fitting kit I've ever put together. Everything about it. And a P-38 is not an easy kit to pull off, as you can see with the twin booms and the tail, and then the way the fuselage kind of just hangs in the middle there. It's a lot of geometry and stuff they have to get right, and Tamiya nailed this one. Everything about it just clicked together. There were so many times that, like you saw in the video, that basically almost didn't need glue. Obviously we glue it because we want it to stay together, but when something can click together and line up every time like that, you know that the engineering has been done right. Kind of give you a little 360 of the build here too. I didn't over weather it like I was saying earlier. We wanted to have a little bit of wear and tear on it, but I'm not one for doing too much into the heavy weathering. I went ahead and put the seatbelt inside as well, the decal. I was going to put the figure in there, but I thought if we put the figure in there, it kind of hides all of the detail that we put into the cockpit. So we left that out and just put the decal seatbelt in. There'll be all kinds of aftermarket seatbelts available that if you wanted to upgrade those, you can certainly do that. Now, I was all about to put an antenna on, and I was looking at quite a few different pictures, and a lot of them did not have antennas at all, and then there was lots of pictures where we couldn't really tell where the antenna came out of. And rather than mess that up, I will wait for an expert to give me some idea on where the antenna goes, and I will put one of those on later on. But it looks pretty sleek just even without it. And there were so many pictures. Now granted, they're modern day airplanes flying, but none of them had the antenna in place on it, you know, and it looks like it would be strung from here to both ends of the tail. But that's always something that we can add on later on. So that's it. The kit is due out in November in the United States, and I'm sure worldwide. It has a retail price of $80, and it is going to be a spectacular model. You guys will absolutely love the way it goes together. So I want to thank you guys as always for watching, and please stay tuned because we have many more videos coming.